Hey, what is going on, guys? I hope you all are doing well today. Elliot here. Welcome back to The Fragrance Well. All right, so today I want to tackle a subject matter or this idea that exists in FragCom that has, in my opinion, kind of made a resurgence in the past 6 months, but I think it's always kind of been here in the modern era, and that is the idea that a reviewer is not trustworthy unless they do negative reviews, which I find this whole idea to be incredibly fascinating. Listen, I've got 3 reasons I'm gonna I don't want to say debunk, but I'm just going to push back on that a little bit. And the first reason is the idea that there's trustworthiness and honesty if you do negative reviews. Well, the question becomes then okay, so how many negative reviews does a reviewer need to do for them to be trustworthy? Is there a metric on that? Is it 1 negative review and then the rest can all be positive and now the guy's trustworthy? First of all, what constitutes a trustworthy fragrance reviewer? Well, number one, I think, consistency would really be a thing that would constitute a trustworthy reviewer. And also the ability to change their mind also means they're being honest because, there's this idea that you could say, I didn't really like that fragrance before. And then, some months go by and it's like, you know what? I changed my mind on it. I revisited. I like it now. How does that make you untrustworthy when you can see people say that all the time in just general commentary who are not fragrance reviewers? I think in terms of trustworthiness, you just kind of have to use a little bit of discretion in terms of whether you're going to trust a reviewer or not. And here's the other thing. What exactly are you trusting them for? Are you trusting them for their own opinions? Because that's what my channel is. I'm just sharing my opinions. I'm basically taking you along with me on my own personal fragrance journey. This is a vlog channel. Are you trusting them to literally build your own collection based off of everything they talk about? In other words, you're just copycatting what they do? I think the overall question in terms of trustworthiness is what is it you're looking for when you're watching a particular reviewer or a group of reviewers? I know for me, I look for fragrances I just haven't necessarily heard of. I look for opinions that may differ from mine. I look for other people's experiences with fragrances. But the biggest thing is just to see if they talk about something I haven't necessarily heard of, and can they talk about it in a way that maybe makes me want to investigate it a little bit further. Reason number 2, I think the whole negative review thing honestly just doesn't make a lot of sense. Most fragrances smell good. If you just think about them from the baseline perspective, most fragrances smell good. I'm talking about like 90 to 95% of them. I'm even talking about the House of Zoologist. If you get past the whole artistic nature of them, the majority of those fragrances, at least the ones I've smelled, actually do smell good. They're just probably not something you want to wear. For me, the only one I've smelled that I was just like, there's no way in hell I would wear that fragrance is Moss, because it literally smells like mothballs to me. And I remember that smell growing up as a kid. I do not want to smell like mothballs. But now again, I haven't smelled all of them, but the number of ones I've smelled, even if it's something I'm like, I don't know if I would necessarily see myself wearing that, I don't necessarily think it smells bad. It may smell weird, but it doesn't smell bad. So with that thought in mind, how many negative reviews do I need to do to be trustworthy if honestly I think the majority of fragrances do smell good? And then there's a difference between do they smell good versus do I want to wear them? That's a whole nother dynamic that is different for everybody. That's what makes this hobby so great and subjective, is the fact that, it's a matter of would you wear it versus does it actually smell good or not. And the third reason I'm not really on board with that whole you got to do negative reviews thing is, for me personally as a content creator, I am not here to bash fragrances or bash fragrance brands. Now, does that mean I won't talk negatively about a fragrance? No, I'll be open about it, but I'm not gonna tailor a lot of my content towards that. Usually the only time I might do that is like in a worse blind buy situation, because I am certainly not going to spend my own money on a fragrance I don't like just to come here and do a negative review on it. I sample a lot of fragrances. I go to the stores and smell as many fragrances as I can. There are plenty that I come across where I'm just like, yeah, I don't really need that, or nah, I don't really like the way that smells, or nah, I can't see myself wearing that. What do you want me to do? Come back here and talk bad about all of those fragrances? That's silly. Why would I devote my time for this channel to talking about negative stuff unless that's going to be the identity of my channel, which I don't want that to be the case. I would much rather spend the time I have to put into making these videos for you guys talking about stuff I actually like. Now, with that being said, if I am going to talk down to a fragrance, I am going to give very clear reasons as to why I'm going to talk bad about that fragrance. I would not come here and just say, oh, it sucks, and then give no context as to why. Frankly, I would never say, there's only one fragrance in my collection, 1 to 2 fragrances in my entire collection that I think completely suck. And frankly, I'm not gonna talk about them on this channel more than once. All right, so I've given my spiel on the whole negative review thing, but we're gonna move on to some fragrances now. So I've got 7 fragrances here that I actually have talked negatively about. I haven't necessarily bashed them to hell, but I have talked them down, said that, you know, they didn't really live up to my expectation or didn't really give me what I needed. I've talked about all of these before. I'm just gonna revisit them. And again, I'm gonna give a clear reason why I would give them a low review. And the thing is, it's not to discourage you from buying them. This is just my personal opinion. Because I know for a fact that there are some fragrances on this list that are favorites of other people, if not fragrances they love. So let's go ahead and get it started. But before we do, as always, please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and please hit that bell icon, enable notifications, so you can be notified when I upload new videos. Let's get into it. All right, first one's coming from the house of Hugo Boss. This is the Scent Private Accord. Hugo Boss, the Scent Private Accord. So first of all, the backstory on this. I learned about this fragrance from Gent Scents. He talked it up quite a bit really early on in my fragrance journey. Now, I wasn't able to get this until like late last year. So we're talking like almost 2 years going by before I actually was able to get my nose on this fragrance. And the fact of the matter is, when I got it, it was just really underwhelming based off of how I thought I might like it when I first learned about it. Now, here's the deal. I bet you if I was able to get it right around the time I learned about it, I actually really would have liked it. And then it kind of I would have grew out of it because my nose matured a lot from when I first learned about this fragrance. This fragrance is sweet. It's supposed to have like a cocoa or coffee accord. And it does, but it doesn't smell that great to me. It's just very kind of blasé, not really realistic smelling, which I kind of wanted. That's kind of what I thought I would get from this. It's sweet, as most of the scent fragrances are. Has that Maninka fruit base that is, you know, rather unique overall in terms of fragrances. I just kind of see it as a little bit of a dusty, kind of cocoa powdery, fruity kind of smell, if that makes sense. Now here's the deal. This fragrance does smell good. Again, going back to that point, this fragrance absolutely smells good. My wife actually really likes it. This just kind of let me down because I believed some hype. Now, that being said, does that mean I, started to hate Gent Scents as a result? No, it just means like, okay, he likes the fragrance, or at least he is purporting to like the fragrance. I have no reason to believe that he doesn't, and it just didn't work out for me. Lesson learned. Now, to be honest, I wanted to get my nose on the scent anyway. It obviously was not going to be in stores. It's discontinued. I just wanted to find out, hey, is this fragrance going to be what I thought it was going to be? And I didn't have to pay a ton of money for it. So, I don't necessarily regret it. I'm glad I found out. But yeah, the Scent Private Accord, it just didn't really live up to the expectation I had in my head originally. But I mean, like I said, that was really early on in my fragrance journey. I have learned to temper my expectations of fragrances I really want to get my nose on to this point. Once again, from the house of Hugo Boss, this is the Scent Private Accord. Next one's coming from the house of John Varvatos. We've got Artisan. John Varvatos Artisan. So this one here was one of those situations where you sample it in the store, you really liked what you smelled there, and then you actually got the bottle, and for whatever reason, whatever you thought you smelled at the store just didn't translate to having the actual bottle. That's the case with this one here. I remember smelling this in store, and I thought it smelled good. I thought I wanted it, and I kind of put it off for a really long time because, it wasn't one that was like at the top of my list. Artisan Pure was that fragrance from John Varvatos, and I love that scent. But then I got this in kind of a group of buying some fragrances, and actually quite a lot of them were blind buys, ironically. And this just did not give me the same satisfaction it did in store. And honestly, I think I know why. It kind of reminds me of an air freshener, like a bathroom air freshener I've smelled before. It doesn't smell exactly like it, but it's just, every time I smell it, I can't help but to think of that. And usually with fragrances that do those kind of things, usually I can look past them if I really like the smell. It's just not the case with this one. This one kind of has a woody orange flavored smell, kind of almost like a fresh woods, a little bit of a green touch to it. It's rather sweet as well. Very artificial smelling. And again, I mean, it doesn't smell bad. It doesn't smell bad at all. It reminds me of that, and I just cannot unsee that or unsmell that, I guess is what you would say. And so it was a bit of a letdown as a buy, but again, this is really cheap on discounters. And again, I bought it for myself. I don't tie this to anybody else. But as a result, I just kind of say like, the fragrance is just okay. With all the other great stuff I have in my cabinet, I am not going to reach for this very often. So this could be one that I end up giving away later on. Once again, from the house of John Varvatos, this is Artisan. All right, next one's coming from the house of Narciso Rodriguez. This is Bleu Noir Parfum. Narciso Rodriguez, Bleu Noir Parfum. Again, I've talked about all of these. I've talked about this one. This was a blind buy because I just couldn't find a fragrance bottle anywhere that has this brand, has the men's fragrances in particular, to just try to smell it beforehand. I mean, I got it for a good price. Matter of fact, yeah, this is a tester bottle. It's got like all the, notes and stuff on the back, or kind of the talk up on it. And for whatever reason, this just did not live up to my expectations. And it's not even like my expectations were super high for this. So this is a kind of an iris scent. Iris with a little bit of a suede leather feel, kind of musky and woody. It's got a kind of a fluffy, creamy texture to it. Again, fragrance smells good, but this one, I don't know, I wore it and it bored me to tears. It didn't really excite me. It didn't really capture my interest. It doesn't keep my interest, and I've tested it a few times to try to see if that would change. It just never happened. So that's why this fragrance does not get positive remarks from me. I know people love this scent. The note breakdown, which is not a reason to buy a fragrance, but it can kind of give you a 10% accurate representation of what the fragrance is trying to convey to you. And based on all of that, I thought I would really love the scent. I love iris. I love when iris is combined with leather. I like musk. I like woods. I mean, so this had all the stuff I thought I would like in a fragrance, but unfortunately it's just the way it is compiled. It just doesn't work for me, so it is what it is, Now, Bleu Noir Eau de Parfum, I gotta get my hands on a bottle of that. That one I really, really like. Just a side note there. Anyway, from the house of Narciso Rodriguez, this is Bleu Noir Parfum. All right, next one's coming from the house of Yves Saint Laurent. This is YSL Y Le Parfum. Is it Le Parfum? I think it's Le Parfum. YSL Y Le Parfum. All right. As far as the Y line goes, when I first got my nose on a few of them, I liked them. I thought they smelled really, really good. But I definitely thought that the Parfum was the one I liked the best. So I got my hands on a bottle of it. I wore it a few times, and you know what? I got bored with it really, really quick. And also, it just kind of turned into a scent DNA I just didn't really care for. Really a style of fragrance I didn't really care for. Mainly because I got my nose on, let's just call it what it is, higher quality stuff. This fragrance is, look, it just smells sweet and like a collection of chemicals that smell good. I don't even remember what the given notes are for this. I think there's some lavender in this. There might be some lavender. There's definitely some sweetness and kind of like a woody base to it. But other than that, I kind of don't even want this scent memory in my head. I'm over YSL Y. The newer ones have definitely been let down. In my opinion, the latest one is worse than all of them. And again, this is a scent DNA a lot of people like. And I'm not knocking them for it. It's not to make anybody dislike it. I'm just telling you that I personally am not a YSL Y fan. Matter of fact, a lot of the YSL fragrances that are outside of their luxury line, I'm not a big fan of, other than those classics like L'Homme and the original La Nuit de L'Homme and some of those flankers. Once again, from the house of YSL, this is YSL Y Le Parfum. Next up, we got one from the house of Versace. This is Eros. Versace Eros. Same thing here, where I smelled them in stores and I liked them. Wasn't crazy about them, but I did like them. Now, Eros Flame, I'm a big fan of. I like that one. I like what they did with the DNA with Eros Flame. I still haven't smelled the latest one. I don't even know if it's on our store shelves yet. But Eros is one that I tried to like, and I tested it a few times, and I'm just like, you know what? There's just something about this I just don't want on my skin for a long time. And the fragrance, remember, it lasts all day long. So if you wear this, you're committing to it. But yeah, the apple mint kind of combination, sweetness, tonka bean, vanilla, very artificial smelling, but very pleasant smelling, meant to be a people pleaser, and it is. But yeah, it just doesn't work for me. It's just not a scent DNA I really like. And the only reason I even have bottles of it, I got EDT and EDP. The only reason I have bottles of it is because they were in a bundle that somebody was selling, that there were 2 or 3 fragrances within that bundle I wanted. And I only wanted those 2 or 3. But he was like, I'll give you all of these. It was like 7 fragrances for like just over $100. So I'm like, well, okay, yeah, let's just go ahead and make that deal happen. So I got the Eros bottles as a result, but I do not wear them. Once again, from the house of Versace, this is Eros. Next one's coming from the house of Zadig and Voltaire. We've got This Is Him. Zadig and Voltaire, This Is Him. So this was a blind buy. This is a fragrance I learned about from a number of reviewers, so I'm not gonna single out anyone. And it was a fragrance that's popular in the community, so I'm not saying anybody shouldn't talk about this. I got this in and it was just a little underwhelming. I'll be honest though, I want to revisit this one. It's had some time to sit on the shelf. I want to just try it again and see what I think about it, because even smelling it on the atomizer right now, I'm kind of thinking like, I think I need to try this again, because even now it's not really turning me away. Now, I did not like it. I was just kind of bored with it. I just thought it was, It was like 3 out of 5 stars. I was like, it's okay. It didn't really excite me. So that's why I kind of push it off to the side. It's just that reason alone. I was just like, it's all right. But it was a blind buy. Got it for cheap because you can get it for a pretty good price off a discounter. So, I'm not like crying tears over this one. But this is definitely one of those ones that's just at the bottom in terms of my overall rankings for the entire collection. It's near the bottom. But yeah, I'm gonna revisit this one. I remember it being, this is like a vanilla scent with a kind of a fresh spiciness to it. Sandalwood, I think, is one of the focal points, so it has a slight creaminess to it. The reason I didn't really like it is because it's using a style of vanilla, and I can't really fully describe the style. I just know there are scents that have similar styles. It's using a style of vanilla that for whatever reason I just don't like. I find a similar style of vanilla used in Altair from Parfums de Marly, which I think I talked about that when I did my kind of like quick review of it. But I'm gonna revisit this one. I'll see if my mind has changed, or maybe the bottle has just had some time to mature and maybe it's a little bit smoothed out. Maybe it was just a little rough around the edges when I first got it. Once again, from the house of Zadig and Voltaire, This Is Him. This is him. All right, and last but not least, coming from the house of Perry Ellis, it's 360 Red. Perry Ellis 360 Red. This is one of the earliest fragrances that kind of got talked negatively about on the channel. It was a part of my worst blind buys video, and frankly, this is one of my worst blind buys. Now, does it smell bad? No, it does not. It just didn't really do anything for me. I bought it because I liked the idea of this DNA with cinnamon, and frankly, the cinnamon just doesn't smell that good in here to me. I'll be honest, I had Perry Ellis 360 back when I was a kid. Primarily wore Liz Claiborne's Curve for Men, but this was that 360 was another fragrance I had. So I would wear it from time to time, and honestly, even then, I can't remember what else I had with it, but that one was like my least favorite. So even then, that fragrance, the 360 DNA, I was not the biggest fan of. I wore it the least. So this, it was one that was talked about a lot as being a cheap fragrance that you can get that's really, really good. So, I just bought it in like a blind buy cheap fragrance haul. I was like, let me just grab that one. It's one of the cheap ones. I'll check it out. I didn't really necessarily have high expectations for it, but I was curious about it. Got it in, and I was like, yeah, this isn't doing anything for me. And even now, nah. I understand that it's kind of meant to be their take on an Acqua di Gio DNA. Well, that makes sense because I happen to not really be the biggest fan of most Acqua di Gio DNAs outside of Profumo. So yeah, 360 Red is just one of those fragrances that I'm just not the biggest fan of. And I told you, I'm not really in the business of bashing brands, but Perry Ellis's fragrances overall, I'm not really that keen on. I did smell that one, I think it's called Sky. I smelled it in a duty-free store. I liked how that one smelled, but I never got it on skin, and I haven't just blind bought it, but that one I might check out if I do another blind buy cheapy haul at some point. Once again, from the house of Perry Ellis, this is 360 Red. Alright guys, that is going to do it for this video. Just a little bit of a discussion on the whole idea of negative reviews from reviewers, and also just some fragrances that I actually have given negative reviews, but I gave very clear reasons as to why I didn't just bash them for the sake of bashing them. Let me know what you thought of this video down in the comments below. Really do appreciate you guys for watching all the way into the end. Please remember to be well and smell well, and I will see you in the next episode of The Fragrance Well. Have a good one.